Hey guys, tonight we're taking a deep, calming dive into the velvety darkness of ancient Egypt, exploring something truly bizarre yet strangely soothing: how they tracked dreams, and yes, how spiders played an unexpected role in all of it. Imagine, if you will, the cool night air of the Nile Delta, a gentle breeze rustling through papyrus reeds, carrying the faint scent of lotus blossoms, and maybe, just maybe, the almost imperceptible scuttle of 8 tiny legs across a sandy floor. You're lying on a reed mat, wrapped in linen, waiting for sleep to claim you, and with it, perhaps, a message from the gods. You might think your biggest worry is a rogue scorpion, but back then, your deepest concern might have been understanding the symbolism of a dream featuring a grumpy hippopotamus, or, even more perplexing, a benevolent spider. You probably wouldn't survive a single week with their medical remedies, let alone their dream analysis techniques. But lucky for us, we're just visiting. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always wild to think about people tuning in from all corners of the world, perhaps just as the sun is setting, or maybe even rising. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself transported, not to the bustling markets of Thebes, but to a quieter, more spiritual corner of ancient Egyptian life. For these people, the boundary between the waking world and the dream world was remarkably thin, almost permeable. Dreams weren't just random firings of a tired brain. Oh no. They were considered profound messages, direct communications from the deities, or even glimpses into the future. Think of it, no TikTok, no Netflix, just the vast, silent desert night and the whispers of the cosmos. It puts our modern day "did I lock the front door" anxieties into perspective, doesn't it? The ancient Egyptians were meticulously organized in many aspects of their lives, from the annual flooding of the Nile to the precise construction of their monumental tombs. And this same methodical approach extended to their spiritual practices, including dream interpretation. It wasn't some haphazard guessing game. It was a serious, almost scientific endeavor within their theological framework. They believed that during sleep, the soul, or Ba, could leave the body and wander, interacting with gods, ancestors, and other spirits. Sometimes it would journey to the Duat, the underworld, or even float among the stars. So, a dream wasn't just a dream. It was an astral projection, a mini adventure of your very own soul. And who wouldn't want to know what their soul was up to while they were snoring away? This deep reverence for dreams meant that understanding them was paramount. It wasn't just for pharaohs and priests. Ordinary people also sought meaning in their nocturnal visions. A bad dream could portend illness or misfortune, while a good one might signal prosperity or divine favor. Imagine the anxiety if you dreamt of a broken sandal. Was it just a dream, or was it a divine warning about an upcoming journey? You'd probably rush to consult an expert, wouldn't you? And these experts were often found within the hallowed, often hushed, confines of the temples. These were not places of loud pronouncements, but of quiet contemplation, where the air itself seemed to hum with ancient knowledge. The priests and priestesses who served there were not only custodians of rituals and offerings, but also the keepers of sacred knowledge, including the intricate art of oniromancy, the interpretation of dreams. They possessed specialized texts, honed their skills through years of study, and were consulted by all strata of society, from the lowliest farmer, worried about his crop, to the highest noble seeking counsel from the gods. Historians still argue whether these dream interpreters were seen more as divine conduits or skilled psychologists of their time. But either way, their role was undeniably central to the spiritual well-being of the populace. It was a serious business, often involving intricate rituals and the careful observation of details that we, in our modern world, might simply dismiss as coincidences. But for them, everything held meaning, especially when delivered in the enigmatic language of dreams. So, you've glimpsed the importance of dreams in ancient Egyptian society. But where did all this deep, sleepy contemplation actually happen? Well, it often occurred within the quiet sanctity of what we now refer to as dream temples. These weren't your bustling, sun-drenched grand temples like Karnak or Luxor, designed for public spectacle and grand processions. No, these were often smaller, more intimate complexes, sometimes nestled within larger temple precincts, or even standalone structures specifically consecrated for incubation and dream interpretation. Imagine walking into one, the air heavy with incense, the soft glow of oil lamps dancing on hieroglyphic-covered walls, and the profound sense that you were stepping into a realm where the mundane faded away and the spiritual took precedence. These dream temples, sometimes called sanatoria or prank houses of life, were places where individuals, often those suffering from ailments or seeking divine guidance, would come to spend the night. They were designed to be incredibly calming spaces, meticulously crafted to encourage a specific mental and emotional state conducive to dreaming. Think of it as an ancient spa retreat. But instead of mud masks and cucumber slices, you were getting divine revelations and probably a bit of quiet introspection. You'd certainly be able to escape the endless "Are we there yet?" chorus of your kids. The architecture itself played a crucial role. While details vary between sites like Deir el-Bahari, Memphis, and Abydos, you'd often find tranquil courtyards, serene colonnades, and special sleeping chambers or alcoves designed to be utterly peaceful. The walls might have been adorned with soothing scenes of gods bestowing blessings, or perhaps subtle depictions of dream symbols to help prime the mind. No loud, jarring imagery here, just gentle visual cues to guide your subconscious. It was like a very elaborate, very ancient guided meditation session, set to the ambient sounds of the desert night. You'd undergo purification rituals before settling down, a gentle cleansing of body and spirit. This might involve a ritual bath, the application of sacred oils, or wearing specific linen garments, all designed to shed the anxieties of the day and open your mind to divine messages. It's a bit like taking a warm bath before bed, only with more intent and probably less rubber duckies. You'd lie down on a simple mat, perhaps with a slight elevation for your head. Beneath the vast, star-dusted Egyptian sky, or a painted ceiling mimicking it, the air would be still, save for the quiet murmuring of the priests or the distant hoot of an owl. The purpose was not just to sleep, but to incubate a dream. This wasn't about catching a few jia. It was about actively inviting a specific type of dream, often one that would offer a cure for an illness, provide insight into a problem, or reveal a path forward. It required a focused mind and a receptive spirit. You might spend the day in prayer and contemplation, perhaps fasting, preparing your consciousness for the nocturnal visitation. This level of dedication to a good night's sleep and its potential revelations really makes our modern habit of scrolling through social media until 2 a.m. feel rather uninspired, doesn't it? The priests and temple staff would oversee this process, guiding the supplicants and ensuring the environment remained undisturbed. They understood the delicate nature of the human psyche and how external stimuli could interfere with the delicate process of dream incubation. It was a finely tuned operation, built on centuries of observation and spiritual understanding. Historians still argue whether the quiet solitude itself, combined with the power of suggestion, was the primary driver of these dream experiences, or if there were deeper spiritual forces at play. Either way, the setting was undeniably key to the entire endeavor. You were not just a person sleeping. You were a vessel for divine communication, and the temple was the sacred conduit. With the serene dream temples as your backdrop, your journey into ancient Egyptian oniromancy continues. And now we turn our attention to the highly specialized individuals who guided this nocturnal quest for wisdom, the priests as dream interpreters. These weren't just any priests, mind you. They were often part of a specific college or lineage, trained rigorously in the esoteric arts of dream analysis, ritual purification, and understanding the subtle nuances of divine communication. Imagine years of quiet study poring over papyrus, scrolls filled with cryptic symbols and past interpretations, learning the language of the gods through the very fabric of sleep. It was less like a modern pop psychology class and more like theological deep dive, with very real consequences if you got a dream wrong. These spiritual scholars held a unique and revered position in Egyptian society. They were considered intermediaries between humanity and the divine, capable of unlocking messages that lay hidden within the subconscious realm. People would travel great distances, often bringing offerings just to seek their counsel. A general might consult them before a battle, a merchant before a major trade venture, or a worried parent about a sick child. Their interpretations could influence major decisions, avert perceived disasters, or provide profound comfort. It made them, in a way, the ancient world's most sought-after sleep consultants. Only instead of advising on mattress firmness, they were deciphering divine prophecies. Their training was extensive, encompassing not just dream symbolism, but also astronomy, medicine, and temple rituals. They understood the subtle interplay of the body, mind, and spirit, and how various factors could influence the dreaming state. They learned to distinguish between what they considered an ordinary dream, caused by indigestion after too much lentil stew, and a divine dream carrying genuine import. This required immense discernment, observation, and an almost intuitive understanding of human nature, mixed with a hefty dose of spiritual dogma. It was, if you think about it, a rather early form of holistic practice, long before anyone started talking about mindfulness apps. When you approached a dream priest, you wouldn't just rattle off your dream like you're recounting last night's binge-watching session. Oh no, the interaction would be steeped in ritual. You might describe your dream in a specific, formalized way, perhaps repeating it multiple times to ensure accuracy. The priest would listen intently, perhaps making notes on a small piece of papyrus, his expression unreadable. He might ask probing questions about your recent activities, your health, or your emotional state, looking for subtle connections that might inform the interpretation. It was less like a casual chat and more like a solemn confession, but with cosmic implications. The interpretations themselves were often delivered in a measured, almost poetic language, rich with metaphor and ancient wisdom. They might prescribe certain rituals, offerings, or even behavioral changes based on the dream's message. If you dreamt of a snake, for instance, it could signify danger, but depending on its color, its actions, or its location in your dream, it could also represent healing or wisdom. It was all about context. Much like deciphering a particularly obscure emoji sequence from your teenager, the weight of their responsibility was immense. A misinterpretation could lead to misfortune, or so it was believed. Therefore, precision and divine guidance were paramount. They would often pray to Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, or Isis, the goddess associated with magic and healing, for clarity before rendering a verdict. This deep reliance on divine inspiration, coupled with their rigorous training, cemented their authority. Historians still argue whether the priests genuinely believed in the direct divine intervention in every dream, or if they, over time, developed a sophisticated system of psychological interpretation clothed in religious language. Regardless, their role was fundamental in navigating the enigmatic landscapes of the ancient Egyptian night. Now, for the part you've been waiting for, the truly peculiar twist in this ancient Egyptian dream saga, the surprising and surprisingly soothing connection between spiders and their symbolism in the realm of dreams. You might be picturing a creepy-crawly scenario, perhaps a giant tarantula scuttling across your dream temple floor, but put those modern arachnophobe anxieties aside. In ancient Egypt, the spider, particularly its ability to weave intricate, almost invisible webs, held a far more nuanced and even benevolent meaning, especially when it came to the delicate threads of dreams. Think about it. What does a spider do? It spins. It creates a complex, often beautiful structure out of thin air, a delicate trap, or a safe haven, depending on your perspective. For the ancient Egyptians, this act of weaving was deeply symbolic, representing creation, destiny, and the interconnectedness of life. The spider wasn't seen as a monster to be squashed, but as a quiet, industrious artisan, a master architect of ephemeral structures. This perspective is a rather comforting thought when you consider the sheer number of spiders that probably shared living quarters with the average Egyptian, isn't it? Suddenly, they're less of a pest and more of a tiny, eight-legged philosopher. This symbolism extended directly to the world of dreams. Dreams themselves were seen as intricate webs, spun by the subconscious, sometimes tangled, sometimes perfectly clear, but always holding a message. The spider, therefore, became a silent guardian, or even an active participant in this nocturnal weaving. Its web was a metaphor for the dream state itself, delicate yet strong enough to capture fleeting thoughts and divine messages. It was believed that the spider's patient, meticulous work mirrored the process of unraveling and understanding the complex threads of a dream. One of the more quirky tidbits is the belief that certain types of spiders, particularly those known for their orb webs were thought to literally catch dreams. Not in a physical sense, of course, but as a spiritual act. Imagine a shimmering web strung between two lotus stems, not catching flies, but collecting wisps of prophetic insight or forgotten memories as they drifted through the night air. It's a beautifully poetic image, far removed from the horror movie tropes we associate with spiders today. You probably won't find this on a modern sleep hygiene checklist, but it makes for a much more interesting narrative than turn off your phone an hour before bed. While there isn't a vast trove of papyri explicitly detailing daily spider interactions within dream temples, the general reverence for symbolism and the pervasive presence of these creatures suggests an integrated role. They weren't kept as pets, necessarily, but their presence was likely tolerated, perhaps even encouraged, in areas where spiritual weaving and dream work were central. After all, if you believed a creature's very nature reflected the act of creation and interpretation, you wouldn't exactly be reaching for the nearest sandal. Historians still argue whether the spider's symbolic role was truly widespread amongst the general populace or if it was more confined to the esoteric knowledge of the priestly class. However, the consistent presence of weaving imagery in Egyptian art and text, combined with their profound respect for natural phenomena, strongly suggests a deeper connection than we might initially assume. So, the next time you spot a spider diligently spinning its web, perhaps spare a thought for its ancient Egyptian counterparts, quietly helping mortals decode the whispered secrets of the night. It certainly adds a gentle layer to what might otherwise be a spooky encounter. Given the profound symbolic connection between spiders and the intricate tapestry of dreams, it naturally leads us to the practical, if rather unusual, question: how did the ancient Egyptians go about collecting the sacred silk for their ritualistic and medicinal dream practices? Now, don't picture hordes of Egyptians in little pith helmets, delicately plucking strands from every web they could find. The reality, as often is the case with ancient practices, was far more nuanced, steeped in respect for nature and a precise understanding of the materials they utilized. You're probably imagining a frantic, chaotic collection process, maybe involving tiny, ancient tweezers. But consider the delicate nature of spider silk. It's incredibly strong, ounce for ounce stronger than steel, yet astonishingly fine. To collect it for any meaningful purpose, especially one tied to sacred rituals, would require immense care and an almost reverent approach. It wasn't about harvesting en masse, but about acquiring small, pure quantities for specific, often intimate applications. One method, hinted at in various texts and archaeological findings related to ancient Egyptian natural remedies, would involve a very gentle and selective process. Perhaps specific species of spiders, known for producing particularly fine or abundant silk, would be identified. These wouldn't be just any spiders. They'd likely be those found in sacred spaces, near temples, or in areas considered spiritually potent. Think of it as a form of ancient, very lumpacked, sustainable harvesting. You wouldn't just raid a spider's home. You'd carefully, almost ceremoniously, collect what was needed. The silk itself wasn't necessarily used in vast quantities. Its power lay in its symbolic purity and its ethereal quality rather than its bulk. It might have been woven into incredibly fine, almost invisible threads for amulets, or perhaps mixed into very small quantities of salves or balms. Imagine a tiny, almost microscopic piece of spider silk incorporated into an ointment designed to be rubbed on the eyelids before sleep, acting as a subtle conduit for dream reception. It's a rather charming, if slightly unusual thought, isn't it? It certainly puts our modern obsession with silk pillowcases for better sleep into a whole new, much more mystical light. Beyond direct collection, the symbolic power of the spiders. Silk could also be invoked through other means. Perhaps certain priests or priestesses, through their deep understanding of the natural world and spiritual practices, could ritually extract the essence of the silk without physically disturbing the spider or its web. This might involve specific incantations whispered over an undisturbed web, or a symbolic gesture of drawing the invisible threads of wisdom from the air around a spider's creation. This moves beyond mere physical collection into a realm of sympathetic magic, where the idea of the silk and its inherent properties held as much power as the physical substance itself. You might call it ancient eco-friendly harvesting. Another quirky tidbit, though less directly linked to dream work, is the use of spider webs in ancient Egyptian medicine for wound healing due to their natural antiseptic properties. This practical application could have further cemented the spider's image as a creature of healing and gentle power, extending that positive association to its role in dream interpretation. If it could heal the body, why not guide the mind through its nightly journey? Historians still argue whether the collection of spider silk was a widespread practice or confined to a select few high-ranking priests involved in the most esoteric dream rituals. The delicate nature of the material and the reverence for all living creatures in the Egyptian worldview suggest a highly controlled and perhaps rare usage, but the very concept of harvesting these delicate threads for such a profound purpose truly underscores the depth of their belief in the spider's subtle, quiet magic. With the understanding of the spider's subtle, symbolic role, let's now delve into the core activity within those tranquil dream temples, the elaborate yet soothing dream incubation rituals. This wasn't about simply going to bed. It was a deeply intentional, often spiritual process designed to invite specific types of dreams, usually those offering healing, guidance, or prophecy. You weren't just slipping under the covers. You were preparing your very being for a sacred, nocturnal encounter. Imagine, for a moment, the atmosphere. You've been purified, perhaps bathed in water infused with calming herbs like blue lotus or poppy. Your body feels light, your mind unburdened by the day's worries. You're wearing fresh, clean linen garments, perhaps imbued with a gentle, earthy fragrance from incense. The room itself is dimly lit by flickering oil lamps, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The air is still, save for the soft murmur of a priest reciting a gentle incantation, a low, rhythmic hum designed to soothe and focus your mind. It's like the most exclusive, ancient ASMR session you could ever imagine, minus the microphone taps. The ritual would often begin with prayers to specific deities associated with dreams, such as Base, the dwarf god of protection and dreams, or Hathor, the goddess of love, music, and joy, who also had connections to the afterlife and rebirth. You might silently state your intention, the question you wished to have answered, or the healing you sought. This clear focus was crucial. You weren't just hoping for any dream, but one that would illuminate your specific concern. It's a bit like writing down your intentions before a meditation, but with much higher stakes and no handy smartphone app to guide you. You would then lie down on a designated sleeping mat or a low stone bench, carefully arranged to ensure comfort, but not so much that it encouraged mere unconscious slumber. The aim was a liminal state, hovering between wakefulness and sleep, where the mind was open and receptive. You might be instructed to focus on a particular image, a hieroglyph, or even a small, tangible object, like an amulet or a polished stone, allowing your consciousness to drift towards it as sleep approached. This sustained focus, combined with the sensory deprivation of the quiet temple, was a powerful tool for guiding the dreaming mind. During the night, priests or temple attendants might gently check on the incubant, ensuring the stillness was maintained. There would be no sudden noises, no harsh light, just the unwavering commitment to preserving the sacred sleep environment. Sometimes, as a quirky tidbit, certain individuals might even sleep directly on sacred animal skins, such as a lion's pelt, symbolizing strength, or a cat's skin for protection, believing this would further enhance the connection to divine animal spirits within their dreams. You probably won't find that as an option on your next hotel booking, but it certainly speaks to their dedication. Upon waking, the first action was to immediately recall and record the dream. Often, a priest would be waiting nearby, ready with a scribe's tools, papyrus, and ink to carefully transcribe every detail you could remember. The sequence of events, the colors, the sounds, the emotions, the presence of specific figures or animals, every element was considered vital. This immediate transcription was crucial because, as anyone who has ever tried to remember a dream knows, they vanish like morning mist if not captured quickly. Historians still argue about the extent to which these induced dreams were genuinely prophetic versus psychological manifestations of the supplicant's own desires and anxieties. However, the consistent practice over millennia and the detailed records found in dream papyri suggest that the Egyptians found immense value and meaning in these carefully cultivated nocturnal journeys. They truly believed they were conversing with the divine, one quiet, incubated dream at a time, as you lay in that dream temple, inviting the nocturnal messages. It wasn't just the silence and sacred space doing the work. A subtle yet powerful element in these incubation rituals involved the judicious use of herbal brews and potions. These weren't concoctions designed to knock you out cold like some ancient anesthetic. Oh no, the goal was far more refined: to gently lull the body into a relaxed state, quiet the incessant chatter of the waking mind, and thereby open the pathways to a more receptive, lucid dream state. Imagine the gentle aroma drifting through the temple, not pungent or overwhelming, but soft and earthy. The priests, or perhaps specialized herbalists within the temple complex, would prepare these infusions with meticulous care. You might be offered a small cup, the liquid warm and mildly bitter, or perhaps surprisingly sweet. These weren't party drinks. They were spiritual elixirs, each ingredient carefully chosen for its calming or visionary properties. One of the most famous and widely used plants was the blue lotus, Nymphea caerulea. While it has mild psychoactive properties that can induce a state of gentle euphoria, and enhanced sensory perception. It's not a powerful hallucinogen. In a small, controlled dose, brewed into a tea, it would have promoted relaxation and a sense of peaceful detachment, making the transition into sleep smoother and potentially enhancing dream vividness. Think of it as a very ancient, all-natural sleep aid, a bit more intriguing than your chamomile tea, but with a similar calming intent. It's certainly more exotic than counting sheep. Another herb often associated with dream work and sleep in ancient Egypt was the poppy, Papaver somniferum, the source of opium. Now, before you imagine scenes of ancient Egyptian opium dens, understand that its use would have been highly controlled, likely in extremely small, diluted quantities. The goal wasn't addiction or profound intoxication, but rather the and pain-relieving effects that would ensure undisturbed sleep, especially for those suffering from chronic ailments who came to the temples seeking healing dreams. Historians still argue about the precise dosages and methods of administration, but the intention was clear: to facilitate a deep, restorative, and potentially insightful sleep. It was a careful dance between inducing repose and maintaining consciousness, subtle enough for dream recall. Besides these more well-known plants, the Egyptians undoubtedly utilized a range of other local botanicals. Plants like mandrake, known for its mild sedative effects, or even certain types of dates or honey mixed into the brews, could have provided a gentle sweetness or acted as a mild energy source to sustain the body through the night without disturbing the mind. The knowledge of these plants was passed down through generations of healers and priests, a testament to their deep understanding of phytotherapy. You might even find trace elements of these substances in ancient pottery vessels used for drinking. The administration of these brews was often part of the ritual itself. It wasn't just a case of "here's your tea." You might be instructed to drink it slowly, mindfully, allowing its gentle effects to wash over you. The setting, the reverence, and the belief in the potion's efficacy would undoubtedly contribute to its perceived power, a potent example of the placebo effect at work, combined with genuine physiological responses. A quirky tidbit: some texts even suggest that certain aromatic oils extracted from these same plants might have been gently massaged onto the temples or pulse points before sleep, further enhancing the calming effect through olfactory stimulation. So, as you drifted off, cradled by the quiet of the temple and the subtle embrace of these ancient herbal infusions, you weren't merely falling asleep. You were being gently guided, your mind prepared, your body soothed, all in the service of unlocking the profound, sometimes puzzling, messages awaiting you in the silent currents of your dreams. It was a sophisticated, multisensory approach to reaching that elusive, fertile ground between consciousness and the unconscious. Once you've gently succumbed to the calming effects of the herbal brews and found repose in the dream temple, the next crucial step in this ancient Egyptian quest for nocturnal wisdom was decoding the often cryptic messages, and for that, the priests relied on remarkable compendiums known as the Papyrus of Dreams. Imagine a book, but instead of glossy pages and modern fonts, you have rolls of dried papyrus reeds, meticulously inscribed with hieroglyphs and hieratic script, offering a veritable encyclopedia of dream interpretations. These dream books were not unlike modern dream dictionaries, but with a profoundly spiritual and cultural bias. They served as a guide for the priests and sometimes even educated laypersons to understand the symbolic language of the subconscious as it manifested in their dreams. You wouldn't just be handed one to read yourself. Rather, the priest would consult it as he listened to your recounting, searching for patterns and recognized symbols within its ancient wisdom. It was a bit like having a very serious, very old Google search engine for your dreams, but without the annoying pop-up ads. The most famous of these is the Chester Beatty Papyrus 3, a beautifully preserved document that dates back to the Ramesside period around 1200 BCE. It contains hundreds of dream interpretations, neatly organized, often in a two-column format: what you dreamt and what it meant. For example, in one column, you might read if a man sees himself looking in a mirror, and in the adjacent column, the interpretation: it is good. A good life will come to him. Simple, direct, and reassuring. However, many interpretations were far more complex and often counterintuitive to our modern sensibilities. A quirky tidbit: sometimes what seemed bad in a dream was actually good in its interpretation, and vice versa, a concept known as enantiodromia. For instance, dreaming of a dead crocodile might be interpreted as a good omen, signifying the vanquishing of an enemy. Conversely, dreaming of a beautiful, blooming garden could be interpreted as a bad omen, perhaps signifying a fleeting pleasure or an illusion. It really kept you on your toes, trying to decipher if your dream about that delicious roast duck was a sign of prosperity or impending indigestion. The papyri also shed light on the specific concerns of daily life in ancient Egypt. Dreams about the Nile flood, agricultural yields, interactions with specific deities, or even mundane activities like brewing beer or making sandals, all found their place in these interpretative guides. This rich tapestry of symbols reflects the deeply intertwined spiritual and practical aspects of Egyptian life. It's a fascinating window into their collective subconscious, revealing their hopes, fears, and daily preoccupations. The sheer volume and detail within these papyri suggests the dream interpretation was not a fringe practice, but a mainstream, formalized discipline. Priests would spend years mastering the subtle nuances of these texts, learning to apply their wisdom to individual cases. They understood that a dream was not just a string of disconnected images, but a narrative, a story unfolding in the mind's eye, requiring careful unpicking. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen we heard about in another ancient Egyptian context? Well, these dream papyri were just as meticulously crafted, albeit for a very different, far less pungent purpose. Historians still argue about the origin of these dream symbols. Were they based on millennia of empirical observation of dream patterns, or were they divinely revealed to the earliest dream interpreters? Perhaps a bit of both. What is clear is that these Papyrus of Dreams were invaluable tools, providing a structured framework for understanding the elusive language of the night, helping ancient Egyptians navigate their inner worlds with the same precision they applied to their monuments and their calendars. As you awaken from your guided sleep in the dream temple, having perhaps imbibed a calming herbal brew, and now ready to recount your vivid nocturnal journey, you'd quickly discover that for the ancient Egyptians, dreams served a far more practical purpose than just spiritual guidance. They were often used for dream as diagnosis, Prognosis. Yes, your dreams weren't just about cosmic messages. They could be a vital tool for understanding your health and predicting your future. Imagine your doctor asking, "So, what did you dream about last night?" before prescribing medicine. That was, in essence, the ancient Egyptian approach. This medical application of dreams stemmed from the belief that the body and spirit were inextricably linked. If the spirit was unwell, or if a deity was displeased, it could manifest as a physical ailment. Conversely, a physical imbalance might also trigger symbolic dreams. So, a priest-physician or a specialized dream interpreter would listen intently to your dream narrative, searching for clues about your physical condition or impending fate. It was an ancient, highly intuitive form of holistic medicine, far removed from modern MRI scans and blood tests, but no less serious in its intent. Let's say you dreamt of stagnant water or a parched landscape. A dream interpreter might interpret this as a sign of dehydration or a problem with your bodily fluids, perhaps indicating a fever or an infection. If you dreamt of being bitten by a snake, it could, surprisingly, be interpreted as a positive sign of healing. Remember how snakes could symbolize renewal, or it might signify an actual illness related to toxins, depending on other dream elements. The interpretations were rarely simple and always required the expertise of a trained professional. It really makes you think about how many mundane dreams we have that could have been profound medical alerts back then. Dreamt I lost my keys. Probably a sign of impending memory loss. Beyond diagnosis, dreams were also crucial for prognosis, offering glimpses into the future. A pharaoh might consult dream interpreters before embarking on a military campaign, seeking omens of victory or defeat. A farmer might dream of abundant harvests or a barren field, guiding his decisions for the next planting season. This wasn't about rigid fatalism, but about understanding potential outcomes and, if necessary, taking ritualistic action to avert misfortune or maximize good fortune. It was their ancient risk assessment strategy, often more poetic than a spreadsheet, but perhaps just as influential. A quirky tidbit in this vein is the practice of dream incubation for healing. Sufferers of chronic illnesses would sleep in dream temples specifically to receive a dream that would reveal the cure, often in a symbolic form. The dream might show them a specific herb to use, a ritual to perform, or even a deity to appease. Imagine waking up with the solution to your ailment, delivered straight from your subconscious, perhaps with a divine postal stamp. This highlights the proactive nature of their dream practices, not just interpreting, but actively seeking answers. The emphasis on detail in their dream recounting was vital for this diagnostic and prognostic work. The color of a garment, the type of animal, the direction of movement, every element was a potential piece of the puzzle. The priest-physician wasn't just hearing a story. He was piecing together a complex diagnostic picture, akin to a modern detective examining clues at a crime scene. But the crime scene was your sleeping mind. Historians still argue whether the perceived efficacy of these dream diagnoses was due to genuine psychosomatic connections, the power of suggestion, or simply the very human tendency to find patterns and meaning, even in random events. However, the consistent integration of dreams into their medical and decision-making processes across millennia demonstrates the profound faith the ancient Egyptians placed in their nocturnal revelations. It certainly adds a layer of quiet wonder to the act of simply drifting off to sleep. Having explored the diagnostic and prognostic power of dreams, let's shift our focus to the very environment that facilitated these profound nocturnal experiences. It wasn't just the rituals or the brews. The very design of the sacred spaces contributed to the dream state. We're talking about the architectural aid to dreaming, how the ancient Egyptians intentionally designed their temples and sleeping chambers to influence dream experiences, often in surprisingly subtle ways. Imagine for a moment not just a building, but a meticulously crafted container for consciousness. The dream temples, or parts of larger temple complexes dedicated to incubation, were constructed with an almost psychic understanding of human perception. You weren't in a stark, functional room. You were in a sensory-rich environment, yet one designed to be profoundly calming rather than stimulating. Think of it as ancient soundproofing and mood lighting, but integrated into the very stone and layout. The orientation of the sleeping chambers often mattered. They might be aligned with celestial bodies, perhaps facing east to catch the first rays of the rising sun, symbolizing rebirth and awakening, or aligned with specific constellations believed to be powerful during sleep. The gentle flow of air through strategically placed vents could create a constant, soft breeze, a natural white noise that would lull you deeper into relaxation. There were no noisy air conditioners, just the intelligent manipulation of natural elements. The materials themselves contributed to the atmosphere. Cool, smooth limestone walls, perhaps carved with scenes of deities or abstract patterns, would absorb sounds and maintain a steady, comfortable temperature. No jarring textures, no bright, distracting colors, just a muted palette designed for contemplation. The ceilings might have been painted with celestial maps, constellations, or images of the sky goddess Nut, providing a cosmic canopy under which your dreams could unfold. Imagine drifting off, looking up at a starry sky, even indoors, connecting your personal journey to the vastness of the universe. It's a much more inspiring view than popcorn ceiling, wouldn't you agree? Furthermore, the acoustics of these chambers were often deliberately considered. The soft murmuring of priests in nearby halls, perhaps chanting gentle prayers, would carry through. A continuous low hum designed to deepen the meditative state rather than disturb it. No sudden echoes, no sharp noises, just a pervasive sense of quietude that encouraged introspection and a gradual descent into the dream world. This attention to detail demonstrates an astonishing understanding of human psychology. Long before anyone invented sleep studies, a quirky tidbit, some smaller niches or alcoves within these temples, might have been designed for individual incubation, ensuring absolute privacy and minimal distraction. These weren't grand public sleeping areas, but intimate spaces where the individual's journey into their subconscious could be entirely undisturbed. You might even find small, shallow depressions in the stone floor where a pillow could be placed, or perhaps a small offering dish for the dreams to come. Even the approaches to these dream chambers would have been designed to prepare the mind. Long, dark corridors, perhaps leading through an antechamber where purification rituals took place, would slowly disengage you from the outside world. Each step would be a transition, a shedding of the mundane, drawing you deeper into the sacred precinct of sleep. It was a physical journey mirroring the mental journey you were about to embark on. Historians still argue whether some of the more elaborate architectural elements were primarily symbolic or truly functional in inducing specific brain states. However, the consistent effort across various sites to create such serene and carefully controlled environments strongly suggests a deep understanding that the physical space profoundly impacts the mental state, especially when seeking access to the subtle realm of dreams. You weren't just a visitor. You were an integral part of the temple's living, dreaming function. As you continue to explore the silent chambers of ancient Egyptian dream interpretation, beyond the personal journeys and architectural subtleties lies a rich tapestry of symbolism that often found its way into nocturnal visions. The significance of animal omens in dreams. For the ancient Egyptians, animals were not just creatures of the physical world. They were potent symbols, embodying divine characteristics, embodying specific energies, or serving as messengers from the gods. So, when a particular animal appeared in a dream, it was never just a random appearance. It carried profound meaning, often far removed from our modern, literal interpretations. You've likely heard of the reverence for cats, particularly for the goddess Bastet, symbolizing protection and fertility. So, dreaming of a healthy, purring cat might be a good omen, signifying domestic bliss or divine favor. But what about less obvious creatures? What if you dreamt of a grumpy hippopotamus? Given the Nile's vital role and the hippopotamus's often dangerous nature, such a dream could signify hidden dangers or unpredictable forces at play. Yet, the hippopotamus was also associated with the goddess Tauret, protector of childbirth. So context was everything. It's like trying to interpret your friend's vague text messages. A lot depends on the context and who sent it. Take the scarab beetle, for instance. To us, perhaps just an insect, but to the Egyptians, it was Khepri, the manifestation of the rising sun, symbolizing rebirth and transformation. So, dreaming of a scarab could be a powerful omen of new beginnings, regeneration, or successful transformation in your life. It would be a dream to cherish, promising a fresh start. You wouldn't just swat it away like a common bug. Birds, too, held diverse meanings. A falcon, associated with Horus, often symbolized kingship, divine protection, or clear vision. A graceful heron might signify patience or solitude. But a vulture, while often seen as a scavenger, was also associated with the protective goddess, Nekhbet, symbolizing motherhood and protection. So, seeing a vulture in a dream wasn't necessarily a bad omen. It could mean fierce maternal protection was watching over you. It just goes to show you that beauty truly is in the eye of the beholder, or, in this case, the dream interpreter. Even more peculiar creatures found their way into the dream lexicon. What if you dreamt of a baboon? Baboons were associated with Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. So, a baboon in your dream might signify the need for knowledge, the unveiling of secrets, or assistance in a scholarly pursuit. It certainly beats dreaming about your alarm clock repeatedly going off, a quirky tidbit. One of the more unusual animal dream interpretations involved fish. While often a food source, fish in dreams could sometimes signify impurity or evil. perhaps because they lived in the murky depths and were associated with the chaotic aspects of the Nile. So, if you dreamt of catching a big fish, it might not be a sign of bounty, but a warning against hidden dangers. It's a good thing they didn't have fishing shows back then, or every other dream would be a nightmare. The sheer complexity of these animal symbols meant that interpretation wasn't a simple lookup in a book. It required deep cultural understanding, spiritual intuition, and careful consideration of the dream's narrative. The dream priest would analyze not just the animal, but its actions, its color, its location, and its interaction with you in the dream. Remember that spider weaving its web. Its quiet, industrious nature was a benevolent symbol, connecting to destiny and creation. Every creature, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, could be a vessel for profound cosmic messages. Historians still argue about the consistency of these interpretations across different regions and time periods in ancient Egypt. However, the overarching theme remains clear. The animal kingdom was a vital source of symbolism, providing ancient Egyptians with a rich, vibrant language through which the divine could communicate its warnings, blessings, and wisdom within the mysterious realm of dreams. You've seen how animals, architecture, and even herbal concoctions played their part in the ancient Egyptian dreamscape. Now, let's tie back to our earlier eight-legged friends and delve into the weaver's gentle magic, how the ancient Egyptian reverence for weaving and textiles inextricably linked to the spider's quiet, symbolic role in dreams. It's a connection that elevates the humble act of spinning thread into a profound spiritual metaphor. Think about the central importance of textiles in ancient Egypt, from the linen bandages wrapping mummies to the intricate garments of the elite, from sails propelling Nile boats to the very mats you might have slept on in a dream temple. Weaving was fundamental. It was a craft that transformed raw fibers into finished products, creating order from chaos, form from formless material. This transformative power resonated deeply with their worldview. Every thread spun, every warp and weft interconnected, was seen as a microcosm of creation itself. The spider then became a natural, living embodiment of this principle. It was the original weaver, effortlessly spinning incredibly strong, delicate threads from its own body. Its web, shimmering with morning dew or catching the moonlight, was a perfect analogy for the interconnectedness of all things, and especially for the delicate, often unseen threads of destiny and divine communication. It's like discovering that your internet router is actually a wise, ancient spider, spinning the web of information you're currently consuming. In the context of dreams, this symbolism became even more potent. Dreams were seen as ethereal webs, spun by the subconscious mind, sometimes catching fleeting insights, sometimes revealing deeper truths. The spider, through its innate ability to weave, was believed to be subtly connected to this nightly construction of meaning. It wasn't just about collecting its silk, as we discussed earlier, but about honoring its very essence as a master of creation and intricate connections. Consider the meticulousness of weaving. Each thread must be perfect, each pass of the shuttle precise. This required patience, focus, and an understanding of how individual elements contribute to a larger whole. These are precisely the qualities needed for dream interpretation: patience in listening, focus on detail, and an understanding of how disparate dream elements weave together into a coherent message. So, the spider wasn't just a creature. It was a living parable for the art of decoding the dream world. You'd think they would have built a giant spider statue instead of a sphinx, given this perspective. But I suppose the logistics of giant spider legs might have been problematic. For construction, a quirky tidbit that reinforces this connection: certain ancient Egyptian spells and amulets designed to ward off nightmares or induce pleasant dreams sometimes incorporated imagery of weaving tools or even abstract patterns that mimicked the structure of a spider's web. These were not just decorative. They were believed to harness the protective and creative power associated with weaving, drawing on the spider's innate magic. It's a testament to how deeply ingrained this symbolism was in their everyday spiritual practices. Asterisk, the gentle magic of the weaver extended beyond the physical act of creating fabric. It was a metaphor for the way life itself was spun, thread by thread, choice by choice. And within that grand tapestry of existence, dreams were the fleeting, shimmering patterns woven nightly by the soul, guided perhaps by the silent wisdom of the spider. Historians still argue about the exact origins of these specific symbolic links, whether they arose from direct observation of nature or from earlier mythical traditions. However, the consistent presence of weaving as a sacred act, combined with the subtle reverence for the spider, highlights a profound understanding of interconnectedness in the ancient Egyptian worldview. It truly puts a gentle, intricate spin on the simple act of falling asleep. As our exploration of ancient Egyptian dream practices deepens, moving beyond the physical rituals and symbolic connections, we now arrive at a more ethereal, yet equally vital component: the use of forgotten spells, soothing chants. For the Egyptians, sound, rhythm, and spoken word possessed immense power, capable of influencing the spiritual realm and, by extension, the delicate tapestry of dreams. These weren't just whispered prayers. They were carefully crafted verbal incantations designed to prepare the mind for sleep, invite specific dream experiences, and even protect the dreamer from malevolent nocturnal entities. Imagine lying in the quiet of the dream temple, the air thick with the scent of incense, and a priest or priestess begins to chant. The words aren't rushed or loud, but delivered in a low, resonant hum, a rhythmic cadence designed to lull you into a state of deep relaxation. The language itself, ancient Egyptian, would have sounded musical, full of soft consonants and drawn-out vowels. These chants weren't meant to be intellectually dissected. They were meant to be felt, to bypass the logical mind and resonate directly with the subconscious. It was the original white noise machine, but with much more spiritual intent. These spells and chants served multiple purposes. Some were invocations, calling upon specific deities associated with dreams, like Base or Thoth, to guide and protect the dreamer. You might hear phrases promising safe passage through the dream world, ensuring that your Ba's soul would return safely to your body. Other chants were designed to clarify the dream experience, to make the messages from the divine more distinct and memorable. It was like tuning a spiritual radio, trying to get the clearest signal from the universe. A common theme in these chants was purification. Just as the body was ritually cleansed before entering the dream state, so too was the mind. Spells might be recited to dispel anxieties, worries, or negative thoughts that could interfere with a peaceful and insightful dream. Imagine soft words washing over you, dissolving the day's stress, preparing your mental slate for the night's revelations. It's a bit more involved than simply telling yourself, "Don't think about work," but far more effective, one would presume. A quirky tidbit. Some of these incantations were believed to be effective even when recited by the dreamer themselves, silently or in a whisper just before drifting off. These self-administered sleep spells acted as a form of self-hypnosis, reinforcing the intention for a meaningful dream. You might murmur a phrase like, "May my spirit journey safely. May my dreams be clear. May the truth be revealed," as you closed your eyes. This personal engagement made the ritual deeply immersive and empowering. The rhythm of the chanting was often as important as the words themselves. Repetitive phrases, gentle cadences, and a slow, steady delivery would mirror the natural descent into sleep, guiding the brain waves from wakefulness to the slower, more receptive states of REM. It was a sophisticated understanding of how sound affects consciousness, long before neuroscience became a field of study. Historians still argue whether the power of these chants lay primarily in their symbolic content or in their purely sonic properties to induce a relaxed, suggestible state. Regardless, their consistent use points to a deep belief in the power of the spoken word to shape the nocturnal experience. These forgotten spells and soothing chants were the auditory backbone of ancient Egyptian dream work. They created an enveloping sonic tapestry, a continuous stream of subtle sound that dissolved the boundaries of the waking world, inviting you deeper into the quiet, mysterious realm where messages from the divine awaited. It truly gave a whole new meaning to bedtime stories, having been gently lulled by ancient chants and prepared by ritual. Your journey into the ancient Egyptian dream world now connects with another powerful, silent influence, the moon's gentle influence. For a civilization so deeply intertwined with natural cycles, the flooding of the Nile, the rising and setting of the sun, it's no surprise that the lunar calendar played a profound role in their understanding of dreams, their timing, and their interpretation. The moon, with its waxing and waning phases, its mysterious glow in the night sky, was seen as a silent orchestrator of nocturnal energies. Imagine yourself in ancient Egypt, far from the light pollution of modern cities. The moon would have been a dominant feature of the night sky, its phases clearly visible and deeply felt. For the Egyptians, the moon was associated with deities like Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and magic, who also governed the calendar and time. It was also linked to Khonsu, the moon god, known for his healing powers and his role in guiding souls. Thus, the moon wasn't just a celestial body. It was a living, breathing entity, actively influencing the world below, especially the subtle realm of dreams. It was believed that certain lunar phases were more auspicious for dream incubation. For instance, the new moon, a time of darkness and new beginnings, might be considered ideal for seeking dreams about purification or starting new ventures. The full moon, at its peak illumination and power, could be the preferred time for seeking clear, prophetic visions or divine healing, as its light was thought to fully illuminate the hidden corners of the subconscious. Think of it as ancient dream scheduling, meticulously planned around the celestial clock. far more precise than just saying, "I'll try to dream about winning the lottery tonight." The timing of dream incubation within a lunar cycle could also influence the type of dream received or its clarity. A dream received during the waning moon, when the light was decreasing, might be interpreted as a message about letting go or the decline of a situation. Conversely, a dream during the waxing moon could signal growth, expansion, or new opportunities. It added another layer of complexity and nuance to the already intricate art of dream interpretation, making it a truly holistic practice that integrated cosmic rhythms with individual experience. You certainly wouldn't want to accidentally try to manifest something during a waning crescent if you wanted it to grow. A quirky tidbit: some dream papyri might even suggest specific rituals or offerings to be performed during certain moon phases to enhance dream potency. For example, a small offering of milk or bread left out under the moonlight on a particular night might be believed to encourage a beneficial dream. This underscores the active engagement with celestial forces, viewing them not just as distant lights, but as direct participants in their spiritual lives. The moon's influence extended beyond just the timing of dreams. Its gentle, reflective light was also seen as symbolic of the dream state itself, a soft, indirect illumination that revealed hidden truths that might be obscured by the harsh light of day. It was a time for introspection, for turning inward, guided by the silent, steady gaze of the lunar orb. Historians still argue whether the perceived connection between lunar phases and dream experiences was based on genuine physiological responses to the moon's gravitational pull, or if it was primarily a cultural and spiritual construct reinforced by belief and ritual. However, the consistent reference to the moon in dream-related texts and practices confirms its undeniable significance. For the ancient Egyptians, the moon wasn't just lighting their path, it was guiding their very dreams, a gentle, cosmic conductor of their nightly spiritual journeys. As we gently drift towards the end of our journey through the ancient Egyptian world of dreams, we arrive at a timeless reflection, the enduring mystery of sleep. Even with all their elaborate rituals, herbal brews, and spider symbolism, the ancient Egyptians, much like us today, ultimately faced the profound enigma of what happens when consciousness fades and the dream world takes over. Their practices were an attempt to bring order and meaning to this mystery, to harness its power, and to communicate with realms beyond the waking. You've witnessed their meticulous efforts, the serene dream temples designed for incubation, the dedicated priests decoding cryptic visions, the symbolic role of the humble spider and its magical silk, the soothing influence of herbs and chants, and the cosmic guidance of the moon. All these elements formed a sophisticated system aimed at understanding and even controlling what we often dismiss as mere unconscious activity. They understood intuitively that sleep wasn't just a physical necessity. It was a profound state of being, a nightly journey of the soul. Think about it. Despite all our modern scientific advancements, our fMRI machines and sleep labs, we still grapple with the fundamental questions about dreams. Why do we dream? What purpose do they serve? Are they random neurological firings, or do they hold deeper psychological or even predictive meaning? The ancient Egyptians, without the benefit of our technology, confronted these same questions with a spiritual lens, finding answers in divine messages and symbolic narratives. They embraced the mystery rather than trying to dissect it purely on a material level. You might say they were far more comfortable with the unexplained than we are today, always needing a scientific paper to validate an experience. This enduring mystery is what makes their practices so compelling. They built entire systems around something we still don't fully comprehend. They believed that during sleep, a part of you, your Ba, ventured out, perhaps interacting with the divine or even traversing the duat, the underworld. Your body, lying still on a reed mat, was merely an anchor for this cosmic traveler. And the dream, when you awoke, was simply a faint echo of that grand nocturnal adventure. It certainly makes your mundane dream about forgetting your keys feel a bit more epic, doesn't it? A quirky tidbit that underscores this mystery. Some texts describe certain dreams as false dreams, those that were confusing, contradictory, or clearly influenced by physical discomfort like indigestion. This shows an awareness that not all nocturnal visions were equally significant, an ancient discernment between the truly profound and the merely prosaic, much like how we distinguish between a meaningful dream and just a bad night's sleep after too much late-night pizza. Historians still debate the extent to which the ancient Egyptians truly believed in the literal prophecy of every dream versus viewing them as symbolic guidance requiring careful interpretation. However, their pervasive engagement with dreams across all social strata, from pharaohs to commoners, highlights a deep cultural conviction in their power and relevance. The quest to understand sleep, to find meaning in its elusive depths, is a universal human endeavor that transcends time and technology. So, as our journey concludes, and you perhaps find yourself drifting towards your own sleep, remember the ancient Egyptians. Remember their quiet temples, their soothing chants, and their unwavering belief that the night held whispers of wisdom, if only one knew how to listen. The mystery of dreams persists, a timeless puzzle waiting to be explored anew each night. The soft hum of ancient stories now fades into the quiet of your own space. The images of papyrus scrolls, moonlit temples, and the gentle, almost imperceptible weaving of a spider's web slowly recede, like shadows lengthening at dusk. Allow yourself to sink deeper into the stillness, releasing any lingering thoughts, letting them float away like motes of dust in a sunbeam. Your mind, now quieted, is ready for its own gentle journey, free from the demands of the day. Feel the comfort of your bed, the warmth of your covers, as your breath deepens and slows. There is nothing left to do, nowhere else to be, just this peaceful descent into slumber. Let the last whispers of ancient wisdom guide you softly, effortlessly, into the quiet embrace of the night.